Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. So we're going to be going over the best Necromancer build guide for an army build. This is going to be using Army of the Dead with the new improved changes that they have made to the Bones of Rathma set in Season 23, or technically it's in the base game too. You don't have to play Season to actually obtain the new version of the Bones of Rathma. If you have the old one, it will automatically be converted because this season there's really no seasonal change here. So you can just basically throw in your old pieces of gear and you'll be ready to go for this build. Now, just as a heads up, I do want to mention at the start of the video that this is going to be the best army build for Necromancer. If you guys do want the best pushing build for Necromancer, you're going to be looking at the same build that has been seen for a few seasons now, and that is going to be the Bone Spear guide. And I will go ahead and actually link that down below. If you guys do want the highest pushing potential, you're really looking at doing the same build that you actually already had access to, which is the Bone Spear. But I will link that down below in case any of you guys do want that. But this is going to be the best build for the Army of the Dead, the Army Necromancer, because I think a lot of people really like the playstyle, and I would definitely say I have a lot more fun playing this build than the Bone Spear one. But anyways, let's go ahead and go over the playstyle as well as the explanation of the skills and all of the passives, as well as what we need in the cube and all that stuff. But starting off, I do want to go over the skills and the playstyle. So for our mobility, we're going to be using Blood Rush. You can run Metabolism, you can actually run Potency, you can actually run it a lot of different runes. Starting off, if you're having trouble surviving, I would recommend running the one that grants you the additional armor, as it will increase your survivability. But if you happen to be able to survive, you can definitely run Metabolism, and that's going to let you just move around the map a lot faster, especially with the access to the Flavor of Time. When you're able to get that cooldown reduction shrine, you can just zip around the map super fast. So yeah, that's what we have from our ability. And then our command skeletons, we're going to be running Frenzy. This is going to increase their attack speed, and that is going to be tied to our ability to spam Army of the Dead, because all of our damage will be coming from the Army of the Dead. You can hit for trillions of damage, which you guys will probably see in the gameplay once we get the right convention of element cycle, which is in our case, we're going to be focusing in on physical damage. But the Frenzy rune is the one we want, because when our command skeletons attack, that's going to reduce the cooldown of our main damage ability. We want to keep this up at all times, and because we're running the Jeseth's build, our skeletons will be able to attack a different target, but sometimes if there's not another target, you will have to recast it. You kind of just end up spamming it most of the time anyways, but that's how this skill works. And then with Revive, we basically revive to create a small little army. We'll also take some damage reduction with the rune Personal Army, and that's just going to be extra survivability, and it kind of just adds more monsters, and when you add more monsters, the AI will sometimes target the monster, so it's also another form of survivability in that aspect. And then with our Simulacrum, we basically just cast this once, unless we die, and then we're going to have to recast it again, but it's going to increase our maximum essence. That's the main part of the Simulacrum, and technically it'll also duplicate our secondary skills, but it's not really that important. The main thing is really just getting that extra massive amount of extra essence there. And then with Bone Armor, we're going to be running Dislocation just like you would with majority of the Necromancer builds, because that will stun the enemies, which will then proc more damage with our Crispin Sentence, which is the ring that is pretty much in every single Necromancer build as well, because that's going to deal triple bonus of the 100% increased damage to enemies that are slowed or hit by some type of impaired effect, which obviously is stun, yeah. So you basically, what you want to do is activate this not only for survivability, because we're going to be stacking these bones on ourselves, granting us extra damage reduction, but on top of that, it also stuns the enemy, giving us more damage when we activate our main source of damage, which is going to be Army of the Dead. So it has a massive cooldown, but you're seeing in the gameplay, the cooldown isn't really that bad. The reason why it's really going to be able to upkeep it is actually because of the bonus that we have with the Bones of Rathma set. So this is our only really source of damage. Technically, the AI with these skeletons, they do damage, but it's pretty much not anywhere near what it's going to actually deal any real damage. So with the Bones of Rathma set bonus, with the 2-piece bonus, our permanent minions are, in this case, it's going to be all of them, because the minions will be able to survive forever with the Revive, but pretty much it reduces the cooldown of Army of the Dead by 0.5 seconds each time they deal damage. Skeletal warriors spawn faster, and your Revive minions no longer expire, so they will count as your permanent minions. So pretty much that's going to be the main source of getting the cooldown reduction. But you also want to get cooldown reduction on pretty much every single piece of gear that you can. And then on top of that, with a 4-piece bonus, our minions don't take damage, and we gain 1% damage reduction for 15 seconds each time one of our minions deal damage, and that's going to grant us the extra stacks for more survivability. And then with the 6-piece bonus, our permanent minions increase the damage of Army of the Dead by 500 up to 9,000%, which is super easy to obtain. Before, it actually had no cap, and that's why it was super, super insane. In fact, I will link the gameplay that we had with the PTR. This build was so insane on the PTR before they even had that cap, and also the flat number of 500% was actually increased even further, and we got another bonus with Bone Spirit, which that again, this is something that got completely nerfed, but it was kind of interesting. But that's like the main changes with the Bones of Rathma set. So now in terms of the other passives over here, we're running the Overwhelming Essence, so that's going to increase our maximum essence. We're running a Relina's Shadow Hook, but there's a Nair's Black Death build, which I'll briefly touch up upon in a minute. But Overwhelming Essence for more essence, so that's more damage. And then Dark Reaping, this is going to give us extra essence and also life per kill. And since we're basically one-shotting most things when we want to go for it, that's going to refill up our essence, because Command Skeletons it does use essence over there as well. But it's pretty much not going to be something that you need to worry about. And then with Final Service, in the very beginning, right when you enter the Rift, what happens a lot of times is you will instantly just die, because you don't have your stacks built up for your Bones of Rathma set. And on top of that, you don't have your revive minions, so you will just instantly rip, and you also don't have your bone armor. So pretty much that's why it's really there, but it technically is also there as a cheat death, so it's kind of nice, as Necromancer is not the most tanky of classes. And then we're running the Grisly Tribute, so we're healed for 10% of our life on hit when any of our minion hits an enemies, and since it's an army build, that's how we're going to be able to have extra survivability, especially when you keep on spamming the Blood Rush. If you decide to go with Metabolism, you will lose out on life really fast, but that will also help have some recovery. Now, in terms of the pieces of gear, what we're really looking for on our pieces of gear is going to be cooldown reduction. So in terms of the gems, we're going to be running a diamond inside the helmet for cooldown reduction. Inside the chest as well as the pants here, you can actually opt to run rubies, or you can run the topazes. So if you want more damage, topazes. If you want more survivability, you can go ahead and run rubies. That's just going to give you extra armor. At some point, there's you get pretty much diminishing returns, because your damage is already so high that you'll be one-shotting everything. Like I said, you're going to see trillions of damage with this build anyways. So you don't really need to worry too much about damage with this build, because it hits really hard. Now for our amulet, we will be running Haunted Visions, and that's going to be increasing our ability with our Simulacrum, because it will be lasting forever, which is quite nice. You can alternatively run Squirt's Necklace, and what you do want to roll on it is going to be, if you want to run the Nair's build, you will run Poison, which is something that you'll put in the queue, so you run Nair's Black Death, and you'll be swapping out some of the skills. I'll just link this down below. Pretty much it's the same build. It's just the difference is that you can run Grim Scythe if you want to, so it'll go ahead and curse him, and then you can technically make more use of Nair's Black Death, getting extra damage. It is going to be squishier though, but both of these builds are on the leaderboards, and it just kind of depends on what you want to run. If you are going to be running the physical build though, you will want to roll physical instead of, let's say, your poison damage. It's kind of optional on what you want to play, but I would say most people will probably want to roll the physical damage bonus. Now, you can roll off the main stat if you get a high enough amount. You definitely want crit hit chance, crit hit damage. Then you can get physical, or you can just get intelligence. It depends really on your Paragon level. Once you start getting in the 1,000 plus, then you can opt to change it. Again, it depends on how good your rolls are for your other pieces of gear, but that's another option here. For our helm, we just want our main stat, vitality, and then crit chance. For the shoulders, the only real important thing is that cooldown reduction, but if you get like extra life or area damage on other pieces, that's totally fine. And then we're running another Rathma set, so we'll be running the Rathma and the Captain Crimson, but for the gloves, what you want is crit chance, crit damage. And then if you can get area damage, that's okay too, but for the most part, I would rather have the main stat in this particular case, because you deal enough damage with this build with the area, because it just hits so hard in the first place anyways. For the chest, nothing in particular to mention with this. It's just like your main stat, vitality, armor, or you can get elite damage reduction. For the bracers. This is actually a new item that got introduced in Season 23, or the latest patch technically, because it's in the base game too. But you just want physical damage, then you want your main stat, and then you also want that crit hit chance. Now, this is where it gets a little different. You can actually get life per hit if you want to on your pieces of gear instead of vitality. It's totally fine as well, because that will actually proc some of your other things, because this works with your life on hit. For the belt and the pants or the boots, you can run any combination of Captain Crimson's or the Bones of Rathma, but the Bones of Rathma don't have a belt, so you will have to run the Captain Crimson's belt. And this is going to grant you extra cooldown and resource cost reduction, which that doesn't really matter, but with the 3-piece bonus, you get another nice little form of extra damage and damage reduction with it, so that's nice. So Captain Crimson's belt or the pants or the boots, again, you can swap them in and out because you will be running the Ring of Royal Grandeur. So with this over here, nothing in particular, just your main stat. Life is the most important. You can get armor as well. Same thing with the pants. You're not going to be rolling any plus bonus damage on that. With the rings, we're going to run Crispin Sentence. You want crit chance as well as cooldown reduction. Those are the most important stats. And the Convention of Elements over here with crit chance, crit damage, and cooldown reduction. If you can get all of those stats, that's great. If you happen to have a Royal Ring of Grandeur that just rolled like way better, by all means, you can swap them in and out. Because Crispin Sentence, that secondary, you really want that as high as possible. So if it rolls bad, throw it in the cube. Any combination of these inside of the cube and stuff can be swapped in and out. For the weapon, the only important real stat here is that cooldown reduction. We're going to be running the Josette's build as well. That's going to give us extra damage with our command skeletons when they are attacking. We just deal a bunch of extra damage. And then with the shield, the only important thing really is going to be that crit chance and cooldown reduction. But if you can get like increases damage against elites, that's awesome as well. But the chances of getting all those is quite hard. For the cube, really a Shadow Hook for more damage. The Fate's Vow for Army of the Dead gaining extra damage and gains another rune. And then again, Royal Ring of Grandeur, Convention of Elements, you can swap any of those in and out. And then lastly over here, there is an alternate way that you can play the build if you want to. In terms of the gems, this is something also that's swappable. So you can run the Gogok of Swiftness. It's very hard, honestly, to maintain, but you can do it if you, decide to really min-max on your cooldown reduction with your bone armor and timing specifically your Army of the Dead. Well, you can do that as well. You can also run Scorched Necklace, but at that point, you won't want to run the Simulacrum of the Haunted Visions, obviously because you won't have room for it. But that is another option as well. So Gogok Swiftness, Bane of the Trapped, the Wildebeest Gizzard. This is just for life regen because Necromancer is quite squishy, especially if you want to run around super fast, because there's some point where you'll get enough damage, especially if you're doing just like T16 speeds, which you guys are seeing in the background. We're doing GR75s, which is the same equivalent, but if you're really looking to push, you're probably going to want to get a little bit more damage. So things like your Zystone of Vengeance or Bane of the Powerful can actually be pretty good in here because this is mostly an elite hunting build, but all of these gems are swappable. Like if you don't like one of them, you can choose another. If you don't meet the cooldown reductions, I will say though, Gogok of Swiftness is kind of hard to maintain up because you don't have that many skills that will damage, as your minions will not be proccing your Gogok of Swiftness. But that said, in terms of the other things that you can play if you want to, some people were running Swift Harvesting as well as Eternal Torment. So with the Cursed Scythe, you can get some extra damage with Nair's Black Death, but that's going to just basically change a lot of the things to poison. It's no difference in terms of the gameplay really, other than you'll hit them with Grim Scythe, specifically the elites. So instead of it being your bone armor, then you hit them with Grim Scythe, you'll do the same thing that you did before, which is you want to use bone armor, then make sure skeletons are attacking, then you follow with the Grim Scythe. Like, it just adds like another step to the combo here, which basically in the build that most people are playing, because I think the Nair's Black Death is just a little bit more difficult, especially with squirts, because it's more squishy. I would stick with just activating bone armor, make sure command skeletons are attacking, then follow out with the Army of the Dead. So it's like a 1-2 hit, and then you hit them with the Army of Dead, and it does massive amount of damage. But that's going to wrap it up for the gameplay. If you guys have any other questions or comments, let me know down below in the comment section below. But thanks for tuning, guys, and if you enjoyed the video, drop a like on it, and if you're new here and do want to see more Diablo builds and Diablo video guides, as Diablo 2 Resurrected will be coming out very soon, and I also dropped a video going over all of the newer things that were added in Diablo Immortal, as I'm just a huge Diablo fan, so we play like everything over here as well as other games from time to time. But if you do want to see more Diablo as well as other gaming content, content, hit subscribe, and you'll definitely see more in the future. But thanks for tuning in, guys, and I will also leave the Max Roll website in case I was too fast on anything. You guys go ahead and just click on it, and I'll show you the page, and you guys can take your sweet time. But anyways, I'll catch you guys in the next one, and I'm out. Peace.